Jewish philosophers have argued the question of prophecy from time immemorial. What is a prophet? Who is a prophet? Who can be a prophet? What are the rules of prophets? What does a prophet do, and how does one achieve prophecy, keep prophecy, share prophecy, and so on? And it is a apt subject in light of the reading of Moses, and the statement that he was the greatest prophet who saw God face to face. And in so many ways that conflicts with very basic ideas. To see God face to face is not a monotheistic idea. So how does a prophet of a divine which is monotheistic see God face to face? Becomes the first conflict. It almost in many ways resembles the same conflict which is in the Ark of the Covenant, where the Ten Commandments are, which the fourth says, do not make graven images, but on the covenant are the graven images of the cherubim. And these forms of conflict, of magnetism, of tension, of contradiction, are structures of the story. In resolving this conflict, philosophers have described the divine pursuit, the prophetic pursuit of the divine is in the pursuit of knowledge. That knowledge is the way in which we can exercise the divine in our entire worldview, in our entire life, in our experiences, and stretch out the knowledge infinitely into every circumstance. And there are those that would say it is not knowledge, but it is love, or that it is love of God, or that it is the service of God, which is the mechanism that stretches infinitely and must be the source of the divine principle. And in contrast to that is the prophet that says that it is the knowledge, but the knowledge expressed in words, in grammar, in sentences, in stories, in parables, in imaginative structures which allow one to be able to look and reflect and refract. And that is what the prophet, the whole entire prophetic school, which lasted hundreds of years in Israel and even extended for several hundred years later and became the basis of the Great Assembly and the scholars and the people of the Great Assembly, and later on the entire rabbinic and Talmudic legacy. In fact, the entire prophetic school was built on the service of the divine through the word. And it could even be argued that the texts of the Bible are fruits of a form of service, a form of worship. That the songs, the poems, the sentences, the analogies, the parables told are born the fruits of the inspiration of a prophetic class which was divining the infinity in historical circumstances, in political circumstances, in military circumstances, and the entire sport, the rules of the literary genre were to express and to demonstrate how the divine walks within these arenas. And this was a parallel form of worship like or parallel to those of the priests who worship with another form of work, and they called it the divine labor, the work in the temple. And that too demonstrated the broad knowledge of animal husbandry and the cycles of agriculture and the seasons and the calendars and mathematics relating to the intercalation of the calendar and the time for seeding and the time for collecting. Also demonstrated a huge bounty, a source of knowledge which was administered by the priests of the state, and it was the service and the preparation of the agricultural bounty which was the service to the divine. And so too you see the emergence of two groups, the priests and the prophets, who served God in different ways, and that play between the two different schools ended up bringing the entire schools of Jewish thought to follow. It is the rabbis who declare that they are the inheritors of the prophets, and the rabbis recognize that they departed from the traditions of the priests. We, in the synagogue today, we call the priest up in a highly ritualized way to recognize an official role of the priest, whilst completely embracing the interpretive word-based traditions of the rabbis and of the prophets. And for that reason, and Moses is considered not only the greatest prophet, but is referred to as our rabbi.